Hello and welcome to the weekly Global Heartstream. I'm Gabriel Gonzalez, a professional coach, artist, and speaker who enjoys traveling the world, connecting with amazing people, and talking about the longest, most rewarding journey that you'll ever embark on, the 12-inch journey between your head and your heart. Through individual and group coaching programs, online courses, and live seminars, I teach a heart-centered approach to personal mastery, leadership development, and spiritual growth that helps people become the most loving, joyful, and powerful version of themselves. The Global Heartstream is a weekly dedicated space to help you reconnect with your heart, raise your vibrational frequency, and remind you just how powerful, loving, and amazing you already are. It's also an invitation to unify our hearts with the intention of bringing more love, compassion, and healing to a world that so desperately needs it. You can find out more about my work by visiting GabrielGonzalez.com, where you can also sign up for my weekly newsletter, join the Heart Leader community, and register for my upcoming seminars. And if you enjoy this Heartstream, please be sure to subscribe, like, or comment so that we can reach more people and help make this a more loving, compassionate, and heart-centered world. Hello and welcome to another inspiring episode of the Global Heartstream. I'm your host, Gabriel Gonzalez, broadcasting today, Wednesday, the 8th of March, from the beautiful city of Granada in Andalusia, in the south of Spain. Not Andalusia. That's how my computer says it. And Alexa also. Every time I ask for the weather, and I ask, Alexa, what's the temperature? And she always says, oh, there she is. She always says, right now in Granada, Andalusia, it's whatever. And I always laugh, and I'm always telling her I can't say her name because otherwise she's going to get activated. Anyhow, today we continue on this series of conversations we'll be having this whole month. And we're going to be talking about healing emotional trauma. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to today's broadcast, those of you who are making their way in right now. So if you recall, for this past month, or since the month began, we're exploring the main thing, the core theme, which has to do with sacred self-care. Last week, we spoke about the power of forgiveness. Today, we're focusing on emotional trauma, and I want to share a couple of personal experiences with emotional trauma. Next week, we'll continue the conversation, talking about transforming pain into purpose, then healing through creativity, and then finally cultivating self-compassion. Now, in case you're wondering, why did I call this series, or the theme for the month is sacred self-care? It's quite simple. I want you to think of yourself as a human being that is also spiritual. Your spirit, your soul is your connection, obviously, with the divine, with your essence, with the sacred. And so more often than not, we apply this concept to self-care, to just taking care of ourselves. Having a day in the park, taking a nice bubbling bath, having a meal that nurtures you. And it focuses a lot on the body. And so when I speak about sacred self-care, I'm speaking about nurturing your soul, nurturing your spirit, and nurturing your heart, which, by the way, I believe is your connecting point to the higher realms, so to your soul. So I want to welcome Christoph, welcome Shelley, welcome Evie. Sorry, I can only pronounce it like that. Hello, Lila. Hello, Cindy's Heart. Hello, Danny over in Romania. Hello, Ellen, namaste, baby. And hello, those of you who are joining us right now. So I want to ask you a question on this topic of trauma, specifically emotional trauma. There is something that it's called PTSD. You all know what that means, right? Post-traumatic stress syndrome. Why do some people develop after a traumatic experience, why do they develop this PTSD while others don't? What is your opinion? Let me know in the comment section below. And while you're doing that, please like this video. Obviously, comment on it. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to this channel to ensure that other people can find us. Plus, whenever you're ready, there are 2 ways that can help you become the best, most loving, joyful, and powerful version of yourself. Coming up in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be starting the next cohort of the Heart Warrior training program. Some of you who are here live have had the opportunity to participate in that program. This is an invitation for you to go much deeper in this work and to attain a higher level of emotional self-mastery, do shadow work, and learn how to communicate with others from a much more loving, compassionate place. This is a 3-month group coaching program. You get to have a lot of individualized time. Normally, I work in small groups, and it begins on Tuesday, March 21st. And then also, for those of you who have been asking me, Gabriel, when are you going to be doing the next Opening the Heart weekend workshop? Well, we finally posted it, and we opened the registration a couple of days ago for the next Opening the Heart weekend workshop. Is taking place on the last Saturday of this month, Saturday, March 25th. It's an all-day workshop. It begins at 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and it ends at 6 p.m. So it's in essence a 7-hour workshop. This is an invitation to all of you who want to go much deeper in this work and desire to release those inner blocks, to letting love in, to connecting with your inner source of wisdom, the true source also of abundance, success, prosperity within you. We're going to be doing this on March 25th. I cannot recommend this enough. This workshop has transformed and changed people's lives. We do a lot of heart tapping. We do a technique that I've been using very successfully for the past few years called emotional release therapy. And you'll have the opportunity to do what Rumi recommends we do. Anybody who's on the path of the heart knows that eventually the path requires you to release the blocks that keep you from experiencing love. That's really our job. It's kind of like removing the clouds that allows them to see the sun. So it's the same thing. Love is always available, is always present. What gets in the way is all these blocked emotions that we all have that keep us from experiencing love. Okay. Which is why we're talking about trauma today and healing, specifically emotional trauma. So let's see if there are any answers. No answers have come to my question that I asked earlier. Why do you believe some people are affected by PTSD after trauma and some other people are not? Well, it boils down to this quote by one of my favorite authors and teachers on this subject, Dr. Gabor Mate. And here is what Dr. Mate had to say with regards to trauma. He says that trauma is not what happens to you, but that trauma is what happens inside you as a result of what happens to you, or what happened to you, rather. So trauma is not what happens to you, but is how your body, how your nervous system, in essence, how your consciousness responds to what happened to you. So I want to share a story with you. I don't think I've shared this story before in this on this platform. When I was 21 years old, I was kidnapped. I was carjacked in Venezuela. I just moved to a rural part of Venezuela. I'm a city boy. I was born in Caracas, and so I was living away, living farther from the city in a town called Valencia. And one night, I was coming back from Margarita Island. I had spent the weekend there, and I was coming back, and just as normally, this is a trip that I did very often, going away to Margarita Island. In case you never heard of it, it's one of just a beautiful tropical paradise in that are part of the Venezuelan coastline. Venezuela has all of this entire coast of the excuse me, of the Caribbean. And so anyway, so I came back. I took a taxi and arrived back in my apartment. Then I decided I didn't have any groceries or anything at home, so I need to go out and get some food. So I got on the car and I went out. And just as I was coming back from shopping, and obviously I was still in a bit of a haze from a whole weekend being away, as I am parking in the parking lot and on turning the car ignition off, at that moment when I looked up, there's one guy in front of the car pointing a gun at me. And then immediately my reaction was to like look to the side and and get out. But the moment I did that, I realized there was another guy pointing another gun at me also by the door. At that moment, I just froze. And then obviously they made their way into the car and started yelling at me, screaming at me, hitting me with the gun, and then punching me, threw me in the back of the car, and then pushed my head all the way down with their feet. They were holding my head all the way down because even though, they were rubbing me, but they were not wearing masks, so they did not want me to see their faces or to remember their faces for obvious reasons. So anyway, so they held me, my head down in the back seat of the car, pushed against the floor, being held also with two guns. And that went on for about 2.5 hours. And then we got out of the city and I could not see where we were going. Eventually we made it out somewhere on the freeway, and we drove on the freeway for another 2 hours, more or less. And obviously they were asking me where I worked, and they wanted money, and, they wanted to get a ransom and everything. And so I really gave them no information. And the truth is, I was at that moment in a state of shock. I couldn't feel anything. And I was just in a state of shock, not really knowing what to respond. Well, I remember that in that state that I did pray. And in my silence, I was praying to God. I was saying, God, please help me. I don't want to die. God, please help me. So anyway, after driving around, and this guy was just like driving around and figuring out what they were going to do with me. Finally, we went off the freeway into some kind of, like country road. And then once we got somewhere, they decided to stop. And then they finally opened the door of the car and still telling me, like, don't look at us, don't look at us. We want you to get out and like, don't turn back and just walk forward. Obviously I had given them my wallet and my money and like everything that I had with me. And so, and then they just told me, while they were pointing the gun at me, don't look back. And I really thought as I was walking away that they were going to shoot me, that they were going to kill me. And so, to my surprise, as I had walked long enough and I was praying as I walked, I remember just hearing the doors of the car slamming shut, and then hearing the car just, steering away and driving away. As I sat there in shock and disbelief about what had just happened. I didn't have a cell phone. That's taken the cell phone as well, the car, everything. And so I didn't have anything. And so by this time, I think it must have been about 4 o'clock in the afternoon when this happened. But by this time it was past 8 p.m. at night, so it was already pitch dark. And the truth is, once I started walking back the way the car left and saw the lights far away of what I thought it was the freeway, finally made it to the freeway. The truth is, I had no idea which direction was north or south, which direction was back to Caracas or Valencia. I was completely lost and in shock. And at some point, I just looked at it and felt in my intuition that the right way to go was to the right. For some reason, I just felt it's to the right. I think it's also because I could see more lights of the city far away. So anyway, I finally started walking towards the yeah, alongside of the freeway, obviously asking for somebody to help me. But of course, Venezuela is very much like South Africa, high crime rate. So nobody's going to stop at all to help you, because you could also, that's one of the ways in which a lot of people get robbed. And so nobody will stop to help me out. And so I continued to walk, walk, walk. And then finally, after I walked quite a few miles, I saw a gas station. Then I realized, okay, I'm on the on the correct path, because I knew that gas station was on the other side of the road. But I had to make my way through the ditch so I could get there and hopefully get on the phone and call the police. And so trying to cross that ditch, I jumped and then I fell down in the ditch and I scraped myself, and I really just made a mess out of myself. Finally was able to cross, all wet, all filled with dirty and scrapes, and managed to get there. I convinced somebody to give me a ride all the way to the toll booth where there was like where the police were. And finally, I arrived at the police and told them what had happened. They asked me for my ID. I had no ID. And obviously, there wasn't much that they could do. This is something, if you're from Latin America and from South Africa, this is something that for them, that it happens several times a day. However, it was the first time that it was happening for me. And so what I did then, I got them to give me a phone, and I called a friend, and they came to pick me up, and then finally took me home. I stayed with them for a couple of hours, and I remember that during this whole time, I was telling them about what happened as if it had been something that I had seen in a movie. Okay, kind of like the way you describe a scene, like this happened, and then that happened, and then I fell, and then this happened, and then they hit me, and then they did this, and they did that. But I remember, as I was telling the story, I was very disconnected from my body of what had happened. I was still in shock. And it really wasn't until I was now safe at home, and I had taken a very long bath, and I'm sitting there all alone, and I get into bed, that suddenly I start to shake. And I start to shake, and I start to shake, and I start to cry, and I start to scream, and like all the emotion that during those difficult, traumatic moments of my life came suddenly, began to happen. And obviously that night I had nightmares. And the next day I woke up feeling very paranoid and scared, did not even want to go outside of my apartment. And it took a few days before I felt safe to even be able to get out on the streets. And so as a result of this, little by little, I started getting out again with some friends. But here's the thing. Whenever it meant going out at night somewhere or being alone, I was constantly looking out left and right and, in every single direction, and my heart always beating. And so for me, this is the very first experience that I had with emotional trauma. And even though I had also received quite a fair amount of physical trauma because of my head being pushed down with her feet, on to the car floor, and then scraping myself and hurting myself, getting to the other side of the freeway as I moved, crossed over the ditch. But it was more psychological and it was more emotional. And as time went by, eventually I went out and bought a car. The insurance paid for another car. But I remember coming late at night from a party, from, a theater play, from the movies, whatever, every time that I got home for the next few years, I always felt insecure getting out of my car. And I always would look around everywhere before I even got out of the car. So this happened when I lived in LA, even though I lived in a very safe neighborhood. Every time I came at night, I would always look around. When I lived in South Africa, well, even more, I was also mugged there. That's a different story, though. There wasn't as much trauma as this first time around. But my point is, my body, my nervous system, my mind reacted at the very beginning by numbing my pain, just keeping me alive and keeping me at least aware of what was going on, so that I could, yeah, function and also even be able to get out of that situation. But the response to the trauma, the emotions, all the other emotions that normally most of us would feel as something is happening, because they were suppressed, they were repressed during that moment, they all came out in full force. Now, unfortunately, during this time of my life, um, I was not somebody very inclined to go to therapy. I didn't believe in therapists. I believe that only crazy people went to see people like Ellen or some of you guys who are psychotherapists. And so I was very anti any kind of, mental or psychological work. And so I never spoke about it with anybody. And it wasn't until this second experience in South Africa, where I had already, I was already in my 40s and I was already on a spiritual path, where that experience, that even though it was not as traumatic and stressful as my experience in Venezuela happened, but it brought all of that. Now, the big difference was that at that time, I was a coach who had been working on this field of emotional intelligence, emotional healing, spirituality, mastery, etc. And so I had a lot of tools to deal with this. And so when this happened, I decided to do deeper psychological work. And not only that, I was also doing a lot of emotional release work. And at that moment, I gave myself permission to go back into the scene of the crime, to go back into the place that I had been back in Venezuela when I was 21 years old, and to not only revisit what had happened, but to acknowledge some of the feelings that I felt that had gone unacknowledged for another 20 years or so, and was able to also bring myself into a place to find forgiveness for the three men who had kidnapped me or carjacked me, and who had beaten me up. Now, the reason I'm talking about this today is because what happened to me, obviously in a very traumatic way, is what constantly happens to us in a very subtle way. That's one of the things that I realized that most people are not aware of when it comes to trauma. The majority of times we think about trauma as something like what I just described. But there are more subtle types of trauma that affect us at a deeper emotional level that goes completely under notice. And I believe, is really the root cause of many of our addictions, feelings of disconnections, inability to express ourselves. And it basically is a response of our nervous system to, in essence, keep us safe. So I asked earlier, what do you think, PTSD affects some people and it doesn't affect some other people? Well, it's exactly because of that. It's no two people will experience the same trauma in the same way, because we're all wired completely different. Okay, so some people, like myself, for example, I had a certain response. I was able to, within a few days, start getting out on the streets, etc. But there are some people who have experienced that exact same trauma, and they may lock themselves in an apartment for an entire year before they go out. What makes me different than them? Well, my nervous system, my psyche responded in a completely different way. So regardless of what the chosen response at that moment, what is important, I think, to communicate is that if you have experienced any kind of emotional trauma from the past, it can be healed. I certainly have, not just that emotional trauma, but the emotional trauma that comes also from experiencing the death of loved ones. My brother taking his own life, the death of a girlfriend when I was 24 years old, my father's death. Those are traumatic events as well that deeply change and create a tremendous amount of pain. And the key to healing not only this, but any kind of emotional trauma lies in our willingness to feel the pain that was not felt back in the moment when the blow, which is what trauma really means. Trauma means a blow. when the original blow happened. So the only way is by giving ourselves permission to feel it. And this can only be done through the power of love. And what do I mean by that? Well, to give yourself permission to feel pain requires you to rise above that pain. And the only thing that can rise or can rise as a result of feeling that pain is love. Okay, this is the same thing that I've been talking about over and over again since we began this broadcast with regards to letting go and surrender, which is always, which is why I constantly recommend that you read the book Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender by Dr. David Hawkins, because in there he teaches these mechanisms of surrender. The more you give yourself permission to feel and acknowledge the pain that was caused in the past as a result of something that you experienced, the more you will be, excuse me, let me repeat this. The more you give yourself permission to feel this all pain, the more that you are opening the pathways to experience more love. Okay? The more you feel the pain, the more you ultimately feel love. It kind of comes with it. And now, the key also to this process, I believe, is to do this from a heart-centered perspective. And what I mean about that is being present, being willing to allow this feeling of compassion for yourself, for your humanity, compassion also for the person that hurt you, if this involves another person, and to understand their humanness and to understand your own humanness. Little by little, as you give yourself permission to feel the pain, the helplessness, the anger, to revisit kind of like the crime scene, but at an emotional level. There's all emotions that are blocked inside of you, that are locked inside of you, can little by little begin to make their way out. And as they are released, you begin to rise in love. And this is my point. So I want to read some of the comments that some of you guys made with regards to why do some people experience PTSD and other people don't. Ellen says it has to do with internal support mechanisms or lack of it. Yeah. Geraldine's, hi, greetings from Ireland. Hi, Geraldine. Says Gabriel, the comments are off. I don't know why some develop PTSD. I have it. I don't know why, really. Okay. John says, I'm thinking level of resilience. Yeah, that's also a big part of it. Yeah. Some people are more sensitive than others, like a sponge, says Geraldine. Yes. Yeah. These are all very true. And so I think it boils down to what John was saying. It has to do with resilience. And here's my point. And this is the last thing I want to leave with you before we go into our meditation process. Life is meant to be painful. Okay? We cannot escape it. It's just part of being human. Don't know if any of you guys have watched the recent documentary that was released by Netflix on Phil Stutz. In there, as part of the tools that he shares with I forget his name, the name of the actor. I think it's Nathan or something like that. Anyway, one of the tools that he shares with him, he says, you have to embrace the three realities of life. And one is that you cannot avoid pain. You cannot avoid uncertainty. And that the work never stops. Okay. And he really just basically summarizes what almost every great spiritual master has spoken about: Buddha, Krishna, even Christ. Part of being human involves experiencing pain, and not just pain, obviously, experiencing the joy of being alive, connection, all of that, but also embracing the part of life that is painful. And so as we age and as we move through life and experience pain, our nervous systems, our emotional system is just like going to the gym. It becomes stronger, and the more emotional pain we give ourselves permissions to feel, right, the more resilient, the stronger we become. That's just what happens with life. Just like a bodybuilder that goes to the gym and is constantly breaking down their muscle fibers, well, the muscles get stronger the more you build. So the more you feel, the more your capacity to feel increases. Now, in a world where the majority of us uh, are constantly distracting ourselves by the next cell phone message that comes in, by the next Netflix movie, by the next Twitter, by the next like, by the next phone call, by the next whatever it is, and constantly escaping our awareness of the present moment and our awareness also of how we feel in any given moment. What ultimately ends up happening when we begin to disconnect more and more and more and more ourselves from our capacity to experience pain. In fact, we live in a society that discourages feeling emotional pain and encourages, experiencing the what most people would call cheap dopamine. Dopamine that we're able to reach, externally somehow. So the idea is to strengthen our hearts. The idea then is to become stronger, emotionally resilient by, in essence, doing three things, which is what we do here week after week. Becoming present to ourselves, attuning our hearts, not just within ourselves, but attuning our hearts to the bigger, greater heart of life, which is the heart of God. And then energizing and strengthening that our hearts, our human hearts, with this higher love that can only come through our connection with the divine. Now, in the moment we do that, immediately we begin to feel the effects of the nervous system beginning to relax, greater harmony to be experienced inside, the mind beginning to calm down. And this is all happening, yes, because we're experiencing something called psychophysiological coherence. But more than that, what is happening is we are now being really present to the reality of life itself, which may include not just the joys and the feel goods, but also uncomfortable emotions. So as we go into these guided meditations, oh, thank you, Ellen. Yeah, Jonah Hill. I thought I was saying Nathan, but it's Jonah Hill. So as we go into these guided meditations, I want you to do this with the awareness that what we're doing here week after week is kind of like going to the gym. All right. We're individually and collectively connecting more with our hearts, attuning our hearts to the heart of divinity. And then we energize our heart. And then from that space, we become more available to divine ideas, to insights, but we're strengthening ourselves. We're strengthening our emotional system. And very often as we do this, it's very normal for all the emotional wounds and past traumas to come to the surface. If this happens while you're doing one of these guided meditations, I want to invite you to just be present with the emotion. Be present to the pain and just simply witness it, allow it, and continue to breathe. And know that the greater energy, greater love that is now running in your energetic electromagnetic system, it's helping you feel it. It's helping you carry it. It's helping you surrender it. All right. So with this as an introduction to this conversation about healing emotional trauma through the power of love, I want to invite you now to place a hand over your heart and repeat the following affirmations after me. So we're going to do this 2 times right now. From a left brain perspective, just simply to anchor the awareness in the left side of the brain. And then we're going to repeat them once we're in a state of coherence. And what that is going to allow us is going to allow the same affirmation to enter the right brain through the unconscious mind. Let us begin. Take a deep breath into the heart. And let all the air out. and ones again. Deep inhale. And release. Last time. Deep inhale into the heart. Let's begin. I live in a loving, caring, and supportive universe. I believe in the redemptive, healing power of love. The Christ in me is capable of healing all forms of unlovingness. The energy of love heals and restores my body, mind, and emotions. My nervous system is now working in perfect harmony and order. I now choose the higher perspective that love brings. With God's help, I am now transcending all my past traumas and wounds. Begin now by holding this awareness of what it feels like to be here and now, present to ourselves, present to life. As we close our eyes, if we haven't already done that, and give ourselves permission to feel the presence of the heartbeat in the middle of the chest. Our job for the next few moments is just simply to be here and to be present. Feel the gentle lub-dub of the heart in the middle of your chest. Noticing the breath, aware of thoughts that rise and fall, that come and go, yet fully present to this moment, to your breath, to your heartbeat, to what it feels like to feel alive inside your body right now. I give myself permission now to begin to breathe, to direct my breath into the heart. Breathing slowly, breathing deeply, breathing nice and evenly so that the inhale and the exhale are approximately the same length. As I breathe in and out, slowly and evenly, I take a moment to feel gratitude for this moment, for this life, for this beautiful community that continues to come together every Wednesday at the same time. Those fellow travelers, companions of the heart. Feeling gratitude also for the special people in our lives. You know who they are. They know who you are. Think about them. Hold them in your memory and feel gratitude for their presence in your life. Feeling gratitude also for you, for how far you have come along your healing journey, your human journey, your spiritual journey. Feeling gratitude also for all difficult, traumatic experiences from the past. If you're here, it's because you survived it, baby. Yeah. So feel gratitude for that. Sure, there may be remnants inside of you that still need to be released, acknowledged, and let go, but the most important thing is that you survived it. You're here, and that is now in the past. Feel gratitude for our innate human capacity to be resilient, our capacity to overcome obstacles, and our willingness to strive forward in the direction of our highest potential. And as we feel this gratitude and breathe in and out of the heart, allow me to speak the following prayer on your behalf. In the name of the Father, the Divine Mother, in the name of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. In the name of the I Am Presence and Holy Christ Self of every person here today, either live or watching the replay, and speaking on their behalf, I unify my heart to the infinitely loving heart of God, the one power, the one presence that governs the entire cosmos. Knowing that where God is, my heart is. That my life is the life of God, and that my heart is the heart of God. For God is the creator of all hearts, and God is the eternal, immortal heart of life itself. I feel this unity, this relationship that is my own beloved Christ self. I feel this oneness. I allow this connection, this union now to begin to energize and fill my heart with the radiance of God's love, God's wisdom, God's power flowing into my heart, recharging, re-energizing me, awakening me to a higher order of being, to a higher love. For the next few moments, I give myself permission to simply welcome and allow the love that is seeking to reveal itself. That is God's love in me. That is Christ's love in me. That is divine love as me. infinite loving presence of God, we call today. We call you to shine in all the dark places within our human consciousness, our heart, our emotional system, our nervous system that need healing. May any traumatic experience from the past be now released, dissolved, and neutralized by the power of your love. May it return to the nothingness from which it came. May the energy of life flow, be restored in our body temples, in our hearts, in our minds, in our bodies, in our souls. Let thy perfect healing be done in each person here today. Let it be done in Leah, in Ellen, in Marilyn, in Christoph, in Barbara. Let it be done in Geraldine, in John, in Marjorie, in Shelley, in Ivy Lee, in Cindy, in Danny, and everyone else. Let it also be done in the heart of those who hurt us, for we know people who are hurting hurt other people. We see this. We recognize our humanity, human imperfections, and with compassion and appreciation in our hearts, we allow the power of forgiveness to enter. Forgiving ourselves, forgiving others, and forgiving the past. Forgiving ourselves, forgiving others, and forgiving the past. Forgiving the cause, record, memory of anything and everyone associated with any traumatic experience that deeply affected us and kept us from being our true selves, from giving our loves, or being open to receive love. In the name of the Holy Christ presence within me, I now declare. Please repeat after me if you wish. I live in a loving, caring, and supportive universe. I believe in the redemptive, healing power of love. The Christ in me is capable of healing all forms of unlovingness. The energy of love heals and restores my body, mind, and emotions. My nervous system is now working in perfect harmony and order. I now choose the higher perspective that love brings. With God's help, I am now transcending all my past traumas. With God's help, I am now transcending all my emotional wounds. I declare this the law of my being. The law of love operating inside my heart and mind. Declaring this moment sacred unto itself. Knowing that in God I am always safe. In God consciousness, I live. In God consciousness, I heal the past. In God consciousness, I open to new possibilities. In God consciousness, I am. For the next few moments, allow this feeling of unconditional love that is the power of the I am presence within you, which is your Christ self, allowing it to expand in every direction, seeing yourself fully surrounded, enveloped by the divine forces of unconditional love, sacred compassion, and forgiveness. Letting this feeling of compassion, letting this glow from the heart now expand in every direction, that you may share this healing, this love with your brothers, with your sisters, with everyone here today, and with the world. Heavenly Father, we offer you our hearts, love, wisdom, and power. And we ask that this call for individual healing that we just made go out and be multiplied as much as heaven law will allow, that every heart upon the earth may be healed, that every heart may become stronger, resilient in Christ. And may it all be done according to the divine will, that God and only God may be glorified in every heart. We recognize the sacredness of this moment. We accept the sacredness of our hearts, for God only made sacred hearts. And so it is, and it is so. Amen. There's absolutely nothing that the power of love cannot heal. Nothing. Nothing. For love is the energy that nurtures, cares for, and supports all of life. And God is love. So God is the energy that nurtures, cares for, and loves and supports all of life. The creator in unity with its creation. The creator, like the psalm reminds us, providing for his sheep. All right, my beautiful friends, we are now reaching the end of our time together. As always, I want to thank you for your willingness to come Wednesday after Wednesday, ray or shine, for this weekly appointment. Let me ask you, what are you taking away? What new insight, realization, or awareness are you taking away? Or simply, how are you feeling right now? Are you feeling more grounded? Are you feeling stronger? What are you taking away? I'd love it if you could share in the comment section below. When we continue on this topic next week, we'll be looking at different ways in which we can transform pain into purpose, and then look at those past traumatic events and how our psyche, our nervous system responded, and look at ways in which we can also continue the healing by channeling the anger, channeling the hurt, channeling whatever emotion into some creative project that is meaningful and important to us. All right, I want to remind you, if you haven't done it already, please like and subscribe, or like this video and subscribe to this channel, rather. If you haven't already done that, as I said earlier, it really helps us for other people to find out about these programs. All right, let's see. I always love to share some of the comments. Leela says, thank you so much, Gabs. It was a very powerful guided meditation. Christo says, suppress anger, release against the COVID tyranny. I released it. Great, brother. Nice to hear that. And remember that the process is you have to feel it. So if the anger came up, it means it's being released. The key is you got to feel it to heal it. Okay, you got to feel it to release it. Ellen says, what did Ellen say? It was very timely, was pushed way beyond my comfort zone this week. All stuff. Namaste, baby. Yeah. I think the timing of this meditation, it's just a day after the full moon. It's also, very important. I notice also a lot of old emotions coming up over the past couple of days. Leela says, feeling stronger, Gabs. Shelly says, realizes some. Marilyn says, tears of joy. Yeah, great. That's the heart healing. Michelina says, God only made sacred heart. Amen to that. Cindy's heart says, a deep sense of gratitude to my own resilience. Yes, great. Beautiful. Acknowledging yourself. Shelly says, realizes some emotional wounds I haven't dealt with. Thank you. Feeling emotional and tearful. Great. Well, remember to continue to hold yourself in a space of compassion. And I want you to think of these practices as sacred self-care. All right. Where you are, yes, you're taking care of yourself, but you're doing it from the Christ in you, from the divine part of you, from the part of you that is always connected to the heart of God. Okay. When you do that, I promise you, the healing gets accelerated. You grow spiritually. You heal faster. Why? Because you're summoning a higher order of being, a higher level of love. All right, my beautiful friends, thank you once again for hanging out with me on this beautiful Wednesday. Wherever you are in the world, I wish you a fantastic rest of the week. We'll continue on this topic of sacred self-care next week, talking about how to turn pain into purpose. So please continue to be loving, caring, and compassionate with yourself, taking care of yourself so that you can take care of others. As always, I send you all of my love from my heart to yours. Bye-bye for now. Thank you for joining me in this week's Heartstream. I hope you're walking away feeling more connected to yourself and your divinity, to the planet, to others, and to all of life. Please be sure to subscribe so that you can receive notifications about upcoming broadcasts. And if you would like to sign up for my weekly newsletter, join the Heart Leader community, or register for my upcoming trainings and seminars, be sure to visit my website, gabrielgonzalez.com. Until the next time, please take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And as always, I send you all my love from my heart to yours. Bye for now.